Happy Mother's Day! This is Natalie with Sparks of Joy Studio, and I have a huge stash of items that I've thrifted from a variety of places over the last few weeks, and I'm going to show you how I've flipped and made over 12 of those items. Let's get started. For our first project, I actually have something that belonged to my kids from a long time ago. It was a xylophone wooden toy with three balls, and you bang the balls into those holes, and it played the xylophone going down, like almost like a little slide. Well, I'm going to turn this into a riser. I found this piece of scrap wood and I'm going to glue it onto the top to cover up those holes. I had originally tried to use a vase or bottles, but it didn't work out well. Then I painted the entire thing in the color Conservatory by Fusion, and now I'm coming in with Old School by DIY, and I'm going to be painting over all of that green. Now, this paint job, these two colors, was very purposeful. I am painting one layer on top of the other because I will be distressing it back to bring back some of that green. Now I'm coming in with a baby wipe and I'm going to start by getting onto those edges and wiping back some of that gray. And this is a wet distress method. That's one of the best parts about the DIY paint is that it's very easily wet distressed because it is reactivated with any type of water or liquid until it is sealed. Now I'm taking some of the mushrooms from Milo's Pages, which is an IOD stamp set, and I'm going to be placing them across the base on each side of this riser. Once I had those transfers on, I sealed everything up with Big Top by DIY, and here's a look at our finished project.
And then on the talking scene, could you say, I got my son to help
Mm-hmm.
because he was skateboarding and then he wanted to help.
Mm-hmm.
And then I let him do this video with me. How about that?
That's a great idea. Shortly after that clip, my son wanted to skateboard again, so you won't be seeing that project in this video. But I do have this beautiful toolbox, this beautiful old and dingy toolbox that Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs had found, and I got it off of her website. And I am starting by painting it with a couple coats of white paint. All right, so I received this free sample of milk paint called Spring Blossom from the new place that I told you guys about, Belmont Vintage. I'm really excited to try it. We're going to go ahead and put it on this box. It has already been sealed. I'm sorry, not sealed. It has already been painted with an all-in-one paint, the cottage color in white. And now we're going to come back with some milk paint and see how it crackles. With this milk paint, you're going to want to combine the equal parts of water and powder to create the paint. You're going to stir it for 1 minute and then sit it to the side for, I would say, about 10 minutes just to allow it to set and create that what I know has been described as like a melted milkshake kind of consistency. It will present a lot waterier and thinner than some other paints that we typically use, but once it goes on and once you get those layers on, it does actually create a beautiful rich color, and it also allows for that gorgeous crackle. I typically use a chip brush when I am painting with milk paint. I just find that it's a lot easier to paint on any surface, and it just, for some reason, for me, it makes it a lot easier than when I use some of my other brushes that are a little thicker and I guess have a softer bristle. Once everything is painted and sealed, I come back in with this IOD stamp. This is Kindest Regards, and I am going to be stamping the top and the front and back sides of this box with that stamp. I am using IOD ink in the color Stone Gray, and that is going to be kind of our background for the next step. Now I'm going to be taking these transfers. This is actually the same transfers I used last week on the nightstand that you saw me make for my daughter. I told you I was done with all of the transfers from that set. Well, I found more. So I'm going to be using some of them on this box. I'm really focusing on using the ones that are more in the purple leaves, and then the butterflies that I found from that set. For this one piece of transfer, I wanted to curl it around so it got on three different sides of the box. It was challenging and I almost cut it apart, but I stayed with it and I was actually able to get it transferred on. I personally find a lot of success in using the transfers where there is kind of an uneven surface or an edge. For some reason, it's much easier for me to transfer onto surfaces like that than when I'm trying to go onto a flat surface. Not always, but most of the time. Once I was done with all of the transfers, I did seal everything with a polyacrylic sealer. I used Big Top by DIY, and here's a look at our finished project. For our next project, I have this rather large and very thin box. It almost looks like it had a paint set in it or something, oil paints, something like that. And, it had a handle, just almost looked like a briefcase. I started by painting it with two coats of a custom blend of Rose Water by Fusion, lightened with some white paint. I had originally painted the inside of the box in purple, but I decided that I was going to be doing something different on the front of the box. So I came back in and painted the inside of the box with Wellington by Fusion. This is a very dark greenish gray color. It's a beautiful color. It's not one that I would typically use in my decor, but I do like it. And I think that for the inside of this box, especially when you see what's going to be going on the front, I think you'll think it serves its purpose in this piece. Now we're going to be doing some decoupage. I'm so happy to have my liquid patina back. Um, I am going to be coming in with these two roosters. This is one of Rocycled Papers, and I'm going to be starting by creating a starter strip. So I'm painting on that liquid patina just at the very top. I'm spraying my paper with some water. I'm misting it very lightly. And then I'm going to be decoupaging on just that tip. And as I come down, I will be adding on that liquid patina and smoothing it down, adding it on, smoothing it down. And I am using my applicator, and somebody told me what this was in my last video, and as I'm looking at this right now, I cannot remember. So, the viewer who told me, feel free to tell me again. I hope that the more that I hear it and read it, I will remember. Thank you. Once I have had everything decoupaged on, I came back with the liquid patina and I covered the entire top of the piece. I put it to the side, let it dry, sanded down the edges with some sandpaper, and then I sealed it up. And here's a look at the finished project. For our next project, we will be upcycling this toolbox. I got this off Rosie's Rings, which I will leave a description below. It was $10. They were pink and green ones available. And I'm starting out by painting just the top of this box with a messy coat of Winchester by Fusion. I'm not worried about coverage because I am going to be coming back with another color that will layer over this one. Once that was dry, I came back in with the color Old School by DIY. This is a clay-based paint, and this color dries back to a charcoal off black color. I'm going to paint the entire box in this color and let that dry. Once that was done and dry, I came back with a baby wipe and I'm wet distressing all around the box to bring back that dark and light pink. Now I'm coming in with a variety of transfers from the Whispering Willow transfer set by IOD and placing them strategically on the box so that some of the transfer would be on the lid to the box, some would be on the bottom. I like that effect. I also, as I mentioned probably before, I really like having these transfers go onto the edge or onto an uneven surface. It allows me to transfer it on much faster. Once I was happy with all of the embellishments, I sealed up the entire piece with a coat of a polyacrylic sealer, and this project was done. For our next project, I have this wooden bin that I'd found at the Goodwill outlet bins, and I am going to try to mask the Santa Claus that is on the sides. I liked the Santa Claus, but I wanted to try to see if I could turn it into something not Christmas related. So I am starting off by painting just the sides of this tote with the color Lamp White by Fusion. Now I'm taking Kindest Regards stamp by IOD and I am stamping it on top of that lamp white on both sides of this tote. I am using the color Stone Gray ink by IOD. Now I'm taking the two of the transfers that are rather large from the Whispering Willow transfer set, this set of mushrooms, and then on the other side I will put a fox. And that is it. I seal this up and this project will be done. For our next project, I have this wooden tray, and I'm going to be painting it on the inside and the outside of it with the color Little Black Dress. This is considered the blackest black of the DIY paint colors. I let that coat dry very thoroughly. I only did one coat, and now I'm coming in and I'm doing a pretty heavy wet distress back to bring back that wood underneath. Now I'm taking some of the leftover cut up pieces of the Joie de Roses transfer set that I had, and I'm going to be transferring them onto this box in random places. I do like the asymmetric look that you can create when you cut the transfers and have them come from the side out or from the bottom out rather than placing something right in the center. I'm not really good at making things symmetrical anyway, so this works for me. Once everything was transferred on, I sealed it up, and here is a look at our finished project. Next, I have this tray that I had gotten a few weeks back at the thrift store for $1.46, and I started by painting the entire piece in Laurentien by Fusion, and now I'm coming in with Old School by DIY. I'm going to be covering the entire box with that old school color. Like you saw on the previous tray, I let it dry and now I'm coming back in with a baby wipe and wet distressing back to bring out some of that light green that was underneath. I do seal the entire piece and let it dry thoroughly before I put on my transfers. So that's what you see me doing here. I will also seal it once the transfers are on. Now I'm taking these roses that I cut apart from, I believe, one of the larger ephemeral melange transfers from IOD. And again, I am placing them in random spots, more asymmetrical, on this piece. I did add in an extra rose, as you see underneath the one on the left, because there was a part where it looked very obviously cut up. I just wanted to give you a quick look at all of these transfers. This is my collection of transfers for over 2 years, and this is exactly why I used today's video to use up some of these transfers. The next project we have is this other tray that I had painted in, I believe it was Endless Shore by Dixie Belle. And I am taking this beautiful branch with leaves. This is from the Whispering Willow IOD transfer set. And I'm going to be placing it on there and then adding in some of the butterflies from Millot's pages. This piece was sealed with a polyacrylic sealer, and here's a look at the finished project. For our next project, I have this a small thin box that I had gotten. I forget what it was holding. I know it had foam on the inside, but I don't remember what it might have held. But I'm going to be using some milk paint again. So you see me mixing up the color Mojito by Fusion. I do want to mention that I like using this little immersion mixer. I had gotten one from my kitchen and it is now permanently in my craft room so that I can mix up this milk paint. I always mix it up. I try not to let it sit for too long or mix for too long because it does get extremely foamy. But I do mix it slightly and then I set it to the side for that 10 minutes and it does really, that has been the most successful for me with milk paint. Now I'm coming in and just very lightly sanding the edges of the outside of the box. I got one of the crackle stamps from the IOD set called Vintage Textures, and I am using IOD in color Stone Gray and stamping it across the top and sides of the box. I'm taking this beautiful bird from the Whispering Willow transfer set and I am going to be placing it to wrap around the box, going down and then around with just a bit of the wings going to the back of the box. I then grabbed this nest with eggs from the Pastiche Stamp set by IOD and I am stamping it on in black ink by IOD. Here's a look at that beautiful stamp up close. And here is a look at our finished project. As I was cleaning this, I realized that this was screwed in on the inside. So I unscrewed it, and now my idea for this just got better. And I have another project. I did not have a chance to upcycle the shoe rest from this box, but we are going to finish up this box today. I painted the entire piece in the color Mojito, that milk paint color that you just saw me use, and now I'm layering on just on top that spring blossom pink that is also milk paint by Fusion. Next, I'll be painting the inside of the box with the color Rosewater, which has been lightened with a white paint to give it a more light pink effect versus a vintage pink, I guess is the way that I see that main color Rosewater. Once again, I'm coming in with a variety of stamps from the Ephemeral Melange transfer set by IOD. I have cut them up and placed them strategically on the box. I do not video all of me transferring all of them on, but you will get a look at the finished project. I actually do end up putting some transfers on the top of the box, the sides of the box, as well as the inside of the box to make it look very, I don't know, like almost like it was a collector's box or something. Just quickly want to mention how awesome this pink milk paint chipped off. I did blast it with a hair dryer or with a heat gun right after I painted it, which I believe created that more chippy effect. I did have to seal it so it wouldn't continue to chip. So I had sealed it and let it dry before I transferred on these transfers. And here's a look at our finished box. For our next project, I had this silver tray that I had thrifted. I had painted it in Cashmere by Fusion, and now I'm going to be taking this flower from the Lover of Flowers IOD transfer set, and I am going to be placing it in the center of this tray. I'm having it go all the way across, and then you see on that right hand side, there's a little bit of that transfer that is off of the tray. I could have wrapped it around, but nobody would have seen it because nobody's ever going to look at the bottom of a tray, right? So I cut it off and I actually end up placing it on the bottom left in another part of the tray on the front. I'm sealing this with some antiquing glaze by Fusion. I brush it on the entire piece and then I am taking a baby wipe, which is actually not very wet, and I'm dabbing it back very gently to give it a little bit more of an aged look. For our final project today, we're going to end with some summer vibes, I guess. I have this other box, I think it was a cigar box from the Dominican Republic, and I painted it originally with an aquamarine color, I think it is, by, not, it was Pink Couture. And then I am now painting it with Heirloom because I decided to make this more of a nautical themed box. I am going to paint the entire piece in that Heirloom, both the inside and outside of the box, and then I will follow up with painting just the outside of the box in the color Bohemian Blue by DIY. Once again, I'm doing a very heavy wet distress back to show off some of that beautiful heirloom that was underneath this Bohemian Blue. I do love how those colors turned out together. And once that is done, I start transferring on some of the transfers that I have more of that ocean nautical kind of theme. I guess mostly ocean. I will say that I do not catch a lot of this on video because I ended up having trouble with one of the transfers because I did not seal this paint first. So, lesson learned. But you will see the finished project. And that is it. I think this is a perfect little box for a, adults or for little boys to collect something special inside of it. And I hope you enjoyed today's video and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much. I will see you soon.